But let's move into the next topic, and that is the best team in the Eastern Conference. And for this, we got to welcome in our resident Sixer fan, our patron, Jake. We're going to welcome him in. We did this last year, and we talked about the 4 teams, and we all picked a team. We talked Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, and 76ers. Ooh. Jake obviously took the 76ers, defended why they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. I think you took the Celtics, Dave. You took the Bucks, and I took the Raptors.
Oh, that's right. I did take the Bucks. I remember
clearly,
that. I remember that.
I was right. Because they ended up winning the finals. So shout out to me.
He traveled.
Okay. All right. Relax here. But we're going to be talking about that again. But now there's 6 teams, so we can't have the nice even ratio of every team out there, because there's 6 teams that are at least above 500 in the Eastern Conference. You got the Bucks at 44-7. You got the Raptors at 38-14. You got the Celtics at 36-15. You got the Heat at 34-17. You got the Sixers at 32-21, and then you got the Pacers at 31-21, and they got a returning Victor Oladipo who's been struggling a little bit. They've lost 4 straight, but I think they'll be able to turn around at some point. So let's go into this. Jake, I haven't been able to talk to you recently about the 76ers. Right now they're in 5th. Let's start there because that's where your expertise lies. 23-2 at home, but 9-19 away. They've won 1 straight so far. They're 5-5. We've been hearing about Joel Embiid. He's been dealing with injuries and the fact that him and Ben Simmons can't play together. What's your take so far throughout this Philadelphia 76ers season through about 53 games?
We all knew when they brought in a guy like Al Horford and gave Tobias Harris that large contract that they were going for win now. And it obviously hasn't worked out so far. We'll get into probably the additions they made at the trade deadline. I've spoken into existence. Thank you very much. But the big part is Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid have been effective, very effective the last 2 years because their supporting cast fit their weaknesses, and mostly that's just shooting. And this year, whenever you lose your perimeter ball handler and Jimmy Butler, and you lose your best off-ball mover and shooter and J.J. Redick, and you replace them with a center and a guy who played really well in a contract year but has been up and down this year, it has not worked out. I think they still don't know who they are as a team, and I think you can go through the East, and a lot of the teams do know who they are, and that's why they've been so successful. But you can point to their home record, and they're the best home team in the NBA. So if you want to hold out a little bit of optimism, their home record is, I don't know what happens. Like when they go on the road, they just look terrible. And then yesterday at home, the 8th best player on the team drops 34. So I'm not quite sure what to think of this team. I think you could spin it either way. It's just, it's been a weird season so far.
Yeah, and you talked about them not having their identity. Do you think do you think this team ever had an identity? And if so, do you think it was lost in losing Jimmy Butler?
I think I don't really know how to put it. I think they had some sort of identity, and Brett Brown loves off-ball movement and all that. And when you bring in a guy like Al Horford, you keep a guy like Tobias Harris, and you let J.J. Redick walk, it just, it goes against every single thing that your coach wants to preach, and it goes against every single thing that your stars are good at and are bad at. And it just, I think it comes down to roster construction, but that doesn't mean that, am I going to pick this team to win the finals? No, but this team still has some sort of time, even though the clock's running out, to find it.
All right, and before we get to the other teams and before we get to Dave and Ricky, other question I have to ask for you is, right now they're the 5th seed. Which teams do you think that they would be favored against in the Eastern Conference in a playoff series, and which ones would you have at least a little bit of contention? Like, do you think that they can go up against the Bucks and win in a 7-game series, or do you think that would be a boat race? Like, where does the line draw where you would then get you'd start questioning your team against the other better teams in the Eastern Conference?
I think they can beat the Pacers, and I think it's a question mark against every single other team that's above them. I don't think you could reasonably say they'd walk through the Celtics or the Bucks or the Raptors or the Heat. And probably the team that scares me the most is the Raptors, because they just seem to have the Sixers number. I don't know what it is, but they just, how deep they are and how well they're coached. And if you want to talk, they're a team that exactly knows who they are and what their identity is. And that's kind of what scares you if you're a Sixers fan.
Yeah, I absolutely am with you on that. I think that's why home court, after you talked about their home and away records, they are 23-2 at home and 9-19 on the road. They desperately need to get a top 4 seed in the East. Like, they have to fight for that number 4 spot with the Heat right now, and that is their one goal for the rest of the season, is to try to get the guys on the court long enough to ensure that they get some sense of home court, even just for the first round, because without that, it's really rough. Like Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons together. I was listening to the Russillo shows, him and Bill Simmons during the trade deadline, and they're talking about how if you chunk out like the time together between Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid on the court together over their careers, they've gotten less and less effective on a like I guess half year basis if you look at it in those chunks. And it leads to, like what you said, the supporting cast around them has changed because they're trying to find solutions to problems, but at the same time, they're taking away guys that really worked well within the system and around those two key pieces. So I think they aren't quite there yet in the East, and because they're still trying to find how to play those guys correctly together, and with that supporting cast that they've now swapped in on the bench unit, like I have to think that this is almost like a desperation year. Like if they disappoint through the playoffs this year, like I should expect to see more changes coming.
I mean, Ricky, he brings up changes happening. We know the change that you've been talking about.
Got to fire Brett Brown, baby.
Called it.
Got to fire him.
Ricky, take your bow.
I've said it before. He is not the guy to bring you to the promised land. He's not going to be your champion head coach. Now,
who is he?
I think a little bit.
Who is he to the 76ers?
I usually throw out the Mark Jackson, but I don't think that is true. I do it for the memes.
Ban that name.
But with me, he is not the coach that then you can. I know Jake's going to say the word scapegoat, and he's going to be like, "Oh, he shouldn't be fired." No, like he should be fired. Like this team. This is a team with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons should be a lot better than where they're at, and it's going to all blow up this year when the Bucks are in the NBA Finals and the Sixers are sitting at home.
Jake, before you respond to Brett Brown should be fired or should not be fired, I want to ask you one thing before that. What is more annoying, us bringing up Mark Jackson for every single time, or Ricky bringing up Mark Jackson every single time we talk about a coach changing a team winning an NBA championship, or Ben Simmons was not a rookie?
Probably Brett Brown, because Ben Simmons is a top 20 player in the NBA, so I couldn't really care if you think he's a rookie or not.
But at least the Brett Brown thing.
Do
you think this is somebody that should be fired at the end of the year if they do not reach their goals of possibly Eastern Conference title win, going to the NBA Finals, and winning the Finals?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, first I want to talk about the point that Dave brought up was Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid together. Their net rating in 2017-2018 was plus 15.5. And then 2018-2019, plus 7.9, and then this year it's plus 1.3. So you could just see it's gone farther and farther down every single year, and I think that more has to do with the supporting cast than it does with the players. And that's actually partially on Joel Embiid, but that's a whole different story, and his body ages like he's 55 already, but that's something else. I don't know about Brett Brown. I think Elton Brand's more to blame for what's happening right now. I think, like I said earlier, when your roster is constructed against everything that your coach preaches and everything that your stars are good at, it makes absolutely no sense. When Tobias Harris, I got when they brought back, but everything that's happened that comes out about Jimmy Butler, it seems like they forced him out instead of him wanting to leave, and that was one of my fears because I think that Brett Brown and Jimmy Butler didn't get along, and I think there was an ultimatum there, and they chose Brett Brown, and that is a whole different thing. But that's just that's a lot of what seems to be happening, and I just think Elton Brand was way, way above his pay grade. He had no experience as a general manager, and that obviously showed. And he rushed his team to title contention when it didn't need to happen. And if you look back at the team, that if the Sixers made no trades, that team is probably better than the team they have right now with all the trades they made.
Mm-hmm. All right, and let's get into the other teams. Sixers, we talked about. How big of a threat do we see the Pacers? Is this a team that we think is going to fall off? I think this is the team that we're probably going to talk about the least, so we could probably just get our thoughts about that before we get into the Big Four. Jake, with the Pacers, anything scary with that team?
They're just consistent, and again, I think it's weird because Sabonis is just like, hey, it's Dave's boy, Sabone me. He's just been incredible this year, and Brogdon's kind of proved everybody wrong. I was one of the people that hated on the Pacers before the year because I thought that Brogdon was more of a system player inside of Milwaukee, and it's been evidently clear that he just wasn't. He was actually being held back by their system. So they've been really good, and they have some good pieces off the bench, and they're consistent and they're strong defensively, which is something that scares you night in and night out when you're playing against somebody in a playoff series. So they're scary. I think Vic will find his footing. I don't think he's found it yet, but they're another team I think with Vic coming back, have to find their identity, and when they do, they'll be there. I don't know if I'd pick them over any of the other teams in the East, but they're not going to be a team anybody walks over.
Dave?
Yeah, I I agree with a lot of what you said. It's just the Pacers, what sets them apart is the fact that any given night, somebody can get hot on their team. They get buckets from different guys, and that's what I think. You're always going to get your points out of Sabonis. You're always going to get your points out of Malcolm Brogdon. But now, like you said, we'll see about Oladipo. We'll see what he can get to in a month's worth of playing time, and if he can return to close to where he was last year, or even in that same range, then they're in good shape because the Doug McDermott plus Sabonis combo has been fantastic for them. McDermott's been shooting lights out. TJ Warren's the walking bucket out there. Miles Turner, we've seen mixed success out of this season, but it's not anything to worry about, struggle-wise, because it works to their system. So I think it's just the fact that they've got a bunch of good role players, and you can't really shut anyone down because no one outside of Sabonis really feels like the guy on the team right now. So it's a team effort, and you can't lock in and be like, oh, well, Ben will shut this guy down. It doesn't matter if Ben shuts down one guy. You're going to get it from a couple different guys any given night.
Mm-hmm. I just think that with that said, I trust Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid more, and Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, or Jason Tatum and Hayward, Kemba Walker.
Yeah,
I trust the stars of the other teams to rise up. So while they can possibly make any series competitive, because they can get it from anywhere, whether that be Turner, Sabonis, Brogdon, Vic if he's healthy. My guy TJ Warren, not gonna just not let him out, and maybe Goga Patazzi goes off. I don't know. TJ McConnell as well, who's been great off the bench.
Yeah,
I mean, I got to give a shout out to TJ for that. They can keep a series competitive. I just don't know if they'll be a true threat.
Right.
Maybe past a first series, because hey, maybe they surprise us, win a series, but I don't think they can do beat the Celtics right now in the first round and then go out and beat
they're tough out in the first round. They're kind of like the oh god, why can I not think of the other LA team? This is embarrassing. The Clippers were last year.
Yeah,
they're just a tough, solid, deep rotation team, and
gritty.
I like them. But I don't like them to win a series.
Yeah, Ricky, I want
an upset.
I want to go to you for non-Pacer talk. We got the Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, Heat. Which team intrigues you the most? Is it the Bucks because they've been so dominant? Is it the Raptors because they've won 13 straight? Is it Boston because we have all these stars and Tatum, Brown, Walker? You got Gordon Hayward as well, or Miami Heat because I know you're a big Jimmy Butler guy. Which team grabs you out of the other four?
So if we're saying most intriguing, I think that this one has to fall between two teams.
Okay.
Either the Raptors or the Heat. Like, the Bucks aren't intriguing to me only because this is what I expected.
They are
them
who
to
we
be
thought they
at
were.
the top of the East. They're going to win a ton of games, and they're going to just walk into that first seeded matchup with what looks like right now to be the Magic, but I'm still holding hope that my Bulls can make the 8 seed, speak it into existence still.
Yeah.
The Celtics, too. Like, we know the Celtics are a good team. Like, injuries didn't hold them back the first time, so why would a Gordon Hayward injury hold them back this time? But no one expected the Miami Heat to be as good as they were. I didn't expect them to be as good as they were, but I still will speak it into existence again. Miami Heat, 76ers are going to meet up round one, and like I proclaimed in our predictions at the beginning of the year, that Miami Heat are going to win that series. And then also like the Raptors, where the Heat, no one expect them to be as good with Jimmy Butler. Like, oh, this is going to be a good year. They'll add some pieces. Then they'll be a championship. Like, holy shit, Bam Adebayo's been great. Kendrick Nunn, he balled out in Summer League, but Dave and I'm like, but it's just Summer League.
Right.
Well, now it's like actual NBA pros he's balling out against. Duncan Robinson, who expected him to have the year he's been having?
His mom.
His mom is probably the only one.
And Pat Riley.
Pat
Riley's got fucking some
like,
sort of
and to get Andre Iguodala.
But the Raptors, I think, might be the most intriguing because they lose Kawhi Leonard, and then Pascal Siakam goes, it don't matter, you got me, or as I like to call him, Pascal C-Scam. C-Scam out there. They're the second seed. So I would say either the Heat or the Raptors, but I might lean Raptors.
Yeah, I got to give the credit to the Raptors. I did not know how good this team would be after losing the MVP of the finals. Like, this just, it blows my mind. The mercenary. Kawhi Leonard was a monster and, like, just playing like a man possessed at times, even though he was hurt. It was insane. But for them to be this good this year, C-Scam missed time.
C-Scam.
Kyle Lowry out there carrying this team at times. They're getting points from different guys. Serge Ibaka's having the best year in years.
Yeah, Terrence Davis has been great.
Terrence Davis,
Shout out
Norm
John.
Powell. I mean, Fred
Marcus
Van
Gasol
Vliet's
when
been great.
healthy.
Marcus Gasol when healthy.
I was going to say, don't forget that Rockford boy, Fred Van Vliet.
Yeah, no, like
OG's been better.
OG's
much better than
he's
last
hit
year.
or miss, but he's better than last year by a far distance. So like that's the thing. This is a team that is just solid top to bottom, and I love the way they play. I love the intensity, and they do that thing where late in games they're going full court press on teams. I don't know if you guys have seen that shit. It's awesome. Like it just makes you feel like, man, they want to win every game. Like they don't have that night off mentality where it's like, all right, we get down by like 15 points maybe early in the second, and it's like, all right guys, well we can just kind of lull it out tonight. It's whatever. We just don't got it. No, that doesn't happen with this team. They are 100% every day. So yeah. I think that they're, to me, one of the most intriguing teams.
And Jake, I want to frame this question a little bit differently to you because I know you can answer it the same way Ricky and Dave can. But
I wouldn't, though.
It's true, but I want to frame it in this way just because you are a Sixer guy. And this is a team that, the Sixers obviously are going to play one of these teams in the playoffs. If they go on a run, they could possibly Boston, Toronto, Milwaukee. What's the one team that you do not want to see in the playoffs out of those four teams? Is it Milwaukee? Is it Toronto? Is it Boston? Is it Miami? Which team do you think that for any team, or your Sixers specifically, would be the hardest out?
Well, I wouldn't have answered the same way, but then you asked that question, and it's the Toronto Raptors. I'm going to keep going back to this. They know exactly who they are. They know exactly how they're going to win games, and they have a top 10 coach in the NBA probably, and it's Pascal Siakam is still underrated with how good he is. And Kyle Lowry, it's kind of weird because last year without Kawhi Leonard, they were very, very, very good. And we kind of just wrote them off and thinking, they won't be as good this year because they lost Kawhi Leonard. But, I mean, Siakam, all he had to do was take that jump, and he evidently has. Even when he missed time, the other guy stepped up. But getting those productions from guys like Serge Ibaka and Terrence Davis, and we knew Kyle Lowry, he might have struggled in the playoffs fast in his career, but he's always consistent when it comes to the regular season. So they're a good team, and they're going to be a tough out for any single team that they face in the playoffs. You
said you wouldn't answer that question, but you answered the question I just asked you with the Raptors. But the previous question, then you said you'd answer it in a different way. How would you answer that first question then?
I would go with the Boston Celtics because their wing play has been incredible, and Jason Tatum is playing at an all-NBA level right now, and I know he probably won't make it, but he's getting to that level defensively and offensively. We already knew what he could do if he actually took a half a step back and started shooting threes instead of long twos, and he's done that this year. And Kemba Walker has been exactly what we thought he would be, and then everybody was clowning them for signing Jaylen Brown to that contract, and all he's done this year is proven that he's worth that money.
Yeah.
And then his Cantor has been solid for them. Marcus Smart, and they have young guys off the bench that just bring energy. And he might not be there this year, but I love Grant Williams. I think he's going to turn into I don't know if he's going to turn into a star, but he's going to turn into a solid NBA player for a lot of years to come. I'm kind of disappointed they didn't make any moves at the deadline. I think they could have used help in the front court. But even without that, we've seen over the past years that wings win you playoff series. And Jason Tatum is taking that leap that we've all been waiting for since we saw in his rookie year. And he might, and it's not a lot of people are talking about it again. He's getting there exactly where we thought he could get to. And if he keeps taking this climb, this team, I mean, Kemba Walker and Jason Tatum they're one of the best duos in the Eastern Conference, and they're going to be like Toronto. They're going to be a tough out for anybody.
Can we clip that segment of Jake just giving so much credit to the Boston Celtics and Jason Tatum? Because I know probably how much that pained you just to say all of those words right there, Jake.
I don't think he realized what he was saying until you just made him think about it.
You just talked so heavily about a player that you could have had on the Sixers.
Yeah, it's okay. At least I'm not a Bulls fan.
No, well, there you go.
Got that 6 rings. Where are your rings, Jake?
I agree with that one. They have rings. 83.
Jake hasn't seen him win.
I was born in '98, so the Bulls rings mean nothing to me.
No, but I was alive for my championships.
Yeah, but you were talking Jake specifically, so Jake really didn't even say your championships either.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying the 76ers have not won while he's been alive. My team has won 6 times while I've been alive.
Because your franchise has been a bitch for the last decade. So.
Hey, let's just get to the point where both our teams aren't winning a championship this year, so let's move on.
Also, just want to give a shout out to the Tatum mention, because you're dead on about him just not taking shitty twos anymore. 2018, 2019, he took, and this was throughout the whole entire season, he had 302 shots attempted at the rim. Right now he's at 219, so he's going to pass that. He had, from 3 to 10 feet, he had 153 shots attempted, and now he's at 126. But it was really the 16 to 3-point range. He took 195 shots in that range last year, 16 to the 3-point line. He took 195 shots there. So far, he's only taken 79, and the percentage is absolutely the same, but now he's at 319 threes this year compared to 342 last year. He's just increased that. He's increased his 3-point percentage. He's been fantastic scoring at all three levels. And honestly, I think it's so weird because I think he should be in contention for most improved player, because just the way that he is being able to be consistent each and every night, and I know that his overall field goal percentage has gone down from last year and from his rookie year. His 3-point percentage has gone up a bit, but I just think he's been so impactful on the floor, and also his defense has just been phenomenal this year. So I think he should be in contention for
game.
Yeah, I mean
he's been crazy.
He's been so good at jumping lanes. So I mean he deserves a ton of credit for how he has grown and how he's developed. Let's go then to the team that we haven't mentioned, and I'm surprised. The team that's 44-7 and has the best player in the Eastern Conference, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. You didn't mention them in the toughest matchup. You ended up mentioning Toronto, and you mentioned Boston's scary wing play. Do we think that this is a for sure, terrifying favorite in the Eastern Conference, or is it just their record that is so impressive, and it's the fact that you have the best player in the Eastern Conference, so it's so tough to lose? What is the feel on the Bucks in this room? Where are we feeling the Bucks can truly go this playoff year? Are they the favorites and it's everyone else needs to beat them, or is it because there's 5 other teams in the Eastern Conference that are good? This is a team that is very vulnerable. Jake, what do you think about that?
I'm cautious to fully commit to them. I know, and they're incredible. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but we saw last year Eric Bledsoe get run off the court in the playoffs, and Giannis, when guarded like a guy like Kawhi, and obviously there's not a guy in the Eastern Conference that's as good as Kawhi. There's defenders and teams that have kind of built their teams around defending Giannis. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come in the playoffs. I think Chris Midd has been one of the most underrated players this year, a 50-40-90 club right now. I mean, we're only halfway through, but he's been incredible this year, and George Hill has been incredible. But it's just, if their bench pieces can keep going how they have in the regular season, and it's the same worries you had last year, and they faced a weird Boston team with Kyrie, and obviously Boston's gotten better this year, adding Kemba and getting rid of Kyrie. They're incredible, and I'm just a little bit, I need to see them play against a great team in the playoffs, because they're the same team they were last year, and we saw those problems pop up. And are those problems going to pop up again this year, where you close out on the shooters and Giannis has to basically do everything? And while he's the second or third best player in the NBA, it's hard to do that unless you're named LeBron James in the playoffs. Yeah,
I feel like you kind of covered it, because it just feels like not much has changed other than the fact that Chris Midd's got, slightly better. He's on the verge of a 50-40-90 season still. I know he's a little off, but still, fucking impressive what he's doing out there. The resurgence of George Hill has been great for them too. Just absolutely throwing. Dante's good.
He's at the mark right now. Chris Midd's at 40, 43, and 90.
He's at what?
50.
Okay.
43, 90.
Okay, perfect. I just don't. For them, it just comes down to a matchup in a series, and like Jake said, it's wearing down that system. If you can get a couple guys to go cold because you just smother them defensively, or matchups, is there someone who can shut down Giannis out there? Is there anyone who can shut down Giannis? The answer is not really. There's no one, but the guys who can come close a couple games. Mara Hezonia's done it. Noah Vonleh's done it.
I mean, Ben Simmons should have a decent shot at it.
And yet, how does that work out, Jake?
Well, he's not even going to be out of the first round.
They don't use him on Giannis. It's the whole thing.
I know, which is so stupid. I mean,
they put out. They said we didn't trade Al Horford at the deadline because we need him to beat the Bucks. I just don't get me. Just go.
I mean, I don't know if it's entirely wrong, because I think Al Horford could be very useful in creating space, so you drag out, Brook Lopez or whoever out beyond the perimeter, and then that hopefully creates space for Ben to drive. I don't think it's entirely stupid that it might help, but Al Horford I don't think is a positive on this team. But Ricky, what do you think about the Bucks?
With me, don't forget that this was a team that swept the Pistons, then lost game 1 against the Celtics, but then swept them after that, and was halfway after 2 games to sweeping the Toronto Raptors before Kawhi Leonard basically woke up. I think that one of the main reasons they lost last year is we can say until we're in the face, oh, you just got to shut down the shooters and do this against Giannis. It's like, yeah, easier said than done. The only team that beat them last year 4 times was the guy who had Kawhi Leonard, who not only was an amazing player, is a great defensive player on top of it. Mm-hmm. And I don't see any of the East teams this year being able to do what the Raptors did last year in 4 straight games. Because in those 4 losses for the Bucks, yeah, that second one, Kawhi didn't have over 30, but Kawhi was putting up 35 points in 3 of those 4 games. So it's like, without having a guy like Kawhi out there, I don't know if there is an East team that can compete with them this year.
I don't want to paint it in the wrong way, though. I don't think it was ridiculous that the Bucks blew a lead or anything like that. They won 2 games at home, and they were fairly. I mean, the game 1 was more
and they
close
should have
than
won game 3. That was the double overtime.
Yeah, I mean, so overall, I wouldn't say that the Bucks blew it or anything. I think they got beat by the better team. I think just they won 2 games at home.
The Raptors woke up. And Kawhi basically went beast mode.
I don't really want to say that they woke up because, again, Kawhi had 31 in game 1. He had 31 in game 2, too. I don't think he woke up.
But they went to a different level is what I'm trying to say.
I disagree. I think they lost 2 away games, but whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, Milwaukee's a team right now that's 24-3. I mean, it's tough to win whenever, wherever they are, but especially in Milwaukee. Yep. They were 33-8 last year at home as well. So I think it was just mainly home court advantage that really bolstered them as well. But at least with Milwaukee, I think the thing that is probably the toughest thing for me to get over is Giannis Antetokounmpo can absolutely take over a game. We saw it this year in the LA game where he ended up saying crown me. But I don't know who else could. And we saw last year, especially in the finals from Toronto, that it wasn't just Kawhi, it was Fred VanVleet, it was Pascal Siakam, it was Kyle Lowry. They were getting other contributions from other players. I think with the Celtics, they can have Jason Tatum take over a game. They could have Gordon Hayward take over a game. They could have Kemba take over a game. They could have Jaylen Brown take over a game. You look at the Heat. Butler can take over a game. I don't know if anybody else can. Do I really trust Kendrick Nunn to take over a playoff game?
I mean,
fuck no.
I would say Bam Adebayo.
No, I don't think he could take over a game.
Or Dragic.
I don't think he could take over a
game.
Bam
Adebayo, I think he could be the Fred VanVleet, where it's like,
what the fuck?
No.
Wait
listen
for it.
Where they're not the same player, but the type of player where it's like you say, oh, he's not taking over a playoff game, and then a playoff game happens. It's like, wow. Without Bam Adebayo, they would have lost this game. He really took this one over.
I feel like he's more of an anchor to the team. Like, he's more consistent than a lot of the younger players on the team, even though he is still young. But, like, when you say, like, take over a game like Fred VanVleet, I'm thinking, like, this is way above his expected performance.
Exactly.
Like, I could see, like you said, Kendrick Nunn is kind of settled into where he's at. Like, Tyler Hero's kind of the wild card on that team.
Yeah.
If he starts shooting
just
fire...
pops off for like 5 threes.
Exactly. Same thing with Duncan Robinson. If he's shooting well, that team has no cap at the top end. Like, when he makes 10 threes in a game, you're just... Whatever's happened. It's not expected. That's sort of what I feel like when you're saying who's the guy who's going to be a difference maker in a series that you don't expect it.
But that's different than taking over a game. I'm saying that... Like when we talk about the Bucks taking over a game, that's Chris Midd. I don't know if I trust Chris Midd if they're trying to slow down Giannis or if they're trying to feed everything to Chris Midd. If Chris Midd has a increased load, and I know I can't say this.
No, I'm not even going to laugh today.
Managing the load.
I don't know. I don't know if Chris Midd can rise to the occasion. And I know he's had a 51 game point performance before. I know he's done it sometimes in the playoffs before. He was good in the playoffs last year. But I don't know if he can truly bring it in a 7-game series if they do try to go to force the ball through him. If they force the ball through Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn, I think if that they end up losing that series because of Kendrick Nunn and or Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson getting fed the ball, that we played the way that we wanted to.
Right.
Like I don't think there is a guy that they would be comfortable going to besides Jimmy Butler that could truly take over a game. Boston could go to any one of those 4 guys that I mentioned. Toronto can go to Lowry or C-Scam or Fred VanVleet. It's Serge in some ways as well. they can go through those guys, and the Sixers can go through Ben and Joel. And I think it's sometimes possibly Tobias if he's able to wake up, but I would really doubt on that. I think you have at least two guys in Ben and Joel that can take over a game. I think that if I had to rank these teams, and we'll go to that next, I would put Toronto at 1, just because I think that they have the best coach, at least in the Eastern Conference right now. I'm so impressed with what Nick Nurse does night in, night out. Then I would put the Celtics at 2, and then I put weirdly enough, the 76ers at 3, just because I don't know. I don't know. I don't trust them. I do not trust them right now. And I don't know if I need to see more from Giannis, but it's so weird that this guy is, probably the front runner in the MVP. He's the reigning MVP, and I'm not trying to shit on Giannis. It's not really a Giannis thing. I don't know if there is enough around him to win a title, and that is mainly what it is. And we saw last year that he wasn't able to pull this Superman performance off in the playoffs, and he could probably do it this year. And I could probably look so fucking stupid come June when he's got raising the Larry O'Brien trophy over his head. But I don't know if there's enough of a team around him to make a significant impact. And the fact that they didn't go out and make a deal, I think they were sitting too much on their laurels, where the Heat were.
Hey, they did.
They picked up.
They signed Marvin Williams.
Yeah, but the problem still lands with, is Eric Bledsoe enough?
I know.
Mm-hmm. Or is he not going to choke?
I think that with you can the argument is Toronto. I think that they were just making sure everyone was healthy. I don't think they needed to make a move. The Celtics, I think, with the lack of cap space, they were able to move because they're so heavy with their larger contracts. They couldn't really make a move. And Romeo Langford's been playing well, so they might even have another bench piece that's coming up. The Heat clearly were thirsty and hungry. 76ers went out and got Alec Burks and Glenn Robinson. That's going to add to their shooting. Indiana just added Victor Oladipo. I don't know what the Bucks are adding here. The Bucks have been really fortunate on health and injuries. I don't think they've had the adversity that they had to deal with, and I think so far, I don't think they've realized it. I don't think they're a 44-7 team. I think that they are probably more of a 41-10 team. I think they're probably still one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, but I don't think it's this big of a landslide because I think they've been so fortunate when it comes to health.
I mean, when you blow out teams, guys don't have to play as many minutes, and that's like
we saw it with the Warriors.
Yeah, it's a huge benefit that your best player out there is only playing 30 minutes a night.
But that's the thing. Like we saw it with the Warriors, but also you had KD, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry.
I'm saying I'm saying during the record-setting season, like that's one of the problems we talked about in the season of like, Steph and Klay are only playing 3 quarters. What's going to happen when they have to play 4 quarters?
Even then, you had Klay and Steph. You could play through either of those guys. I don't know if you could play through anybody but Giannis on that team. And that's the biggest thing that I'm worried about. Yeah. And again, Giannis is fantastic. But when you have so many good, against the Celtics, you're telling me that Gordon Hayward, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum could not at least slow down Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo?
I agree.
But they beat him last year. And I know that it was
But they didn't have Kemba Walker. They didn't have this Jason Tatum. They didn't have Gordon Hayward. It's a different team.
I feel like the Bucks, to me, are still... They're number 1. Like they are my. If you're gonna tell me
what's your 1 through
my 1 through 4, to come out of the East? Basically,
I did 1 through 3. So let's do 1 through 3
to come out of the East, right? Is that what it was?
Favorites of the East? If you had to power rank them,
the Bucks would be 1. I'm gonna say the Heat would be 2, and then 3 would probably be the Boston Celtics.
That's funny. I don't know if I've just zoned or we haven't mentioned really the Andre Iguodala addition.
We brought him up and mentioned him. I don't know if he's going to make a massive amount. What's up, Jake?
I was going to say, you don't even know what Iggy is. He's 36. He hasn't played in half a season, and it looked like last year that he had deteriorated to what he used to be. So I don't know I don't know what he's going to be. So I don't know how much you can really bring him up and what his impact's going to be.
Yeah, as far as these midseason deals, it's tough. I mean, like they went out for that guy who is going to be a veteran wing defender who's got the pedigree. He's been there, done that, and he knows what it takes, and he's got the same work ethic as Jimmy Butler and this Heat team. That's just there. They're always going. I don't know. I think as far as pickups though, mid-season, like, is that better than what the Sixers did? You guys got Alec Burks and Glenn Robinson III.
I don't really know. I don't know. I mean, if they would have gotten Gallo, they would have jumped up the rankings. I don't know.
I agree.
Again, I haven't got to see what Burks. We know. The whole question mark with Burks is if he's going to stay healthy.
Yeah.
So if he can stay healthy, I think he fits more of a solution for the Sixers than Iggy does. Unless, I mean, you could bring in that Iggy's going to be that locker room presence, but I don't really know with Jimmy there. And Jimmy seems to, I don't know. And Burks and Glenn Robinson fill two huge needs for the Sixers. I don't think they're going to like push the needle in a playoff series or anything like that. But I think they're solid additions. You could go either way with that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. So did you finish your rankings?
Yeah, I said Bucks, Heat, Celtics.
Okay, cool. And then you brought up the Iggy trade.
Yeah,
you didn't give your rankings yet. Yeah.
I want to go something other than static, but I think as 1 through 3 lands in the top of the East right now that's what I believe is going to happen. That's my power ranking at least. I don't know if that'll be what it comes out when the Eastern Conference Finals happen, but it does look like Bucks, Raptors, and Celtics are in a different league. I think the Heat are so dependent on Jimmy Butler on a night in, night out basis. Had his shot been falling more, I would believe in them more. Like you said, Sean, when they have issues scoring, they have got a bunch of young guys. Young guys in the playoffs usually have hit or miss performances more often than veterans. That's why I have questions. I love the team. I love what they're doing down in Miami, but I believe more in the veteran heavy teams that are the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Raptors to get it done when the playoffs are on the line.
Yeah, and the one thing with the Giannis thing, and then we'll get to Jake, and we'll get your rankings in your top 3, and I just want to throw this out there. The one thing when against playoff teams, when he's taken 20 or more shots, and they've won 6 games, and they have lost 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're 6-4 when Giannis takes 20 or more shots. I don't know if there's a correlation there yet. I was just trying to figure out where it was if he is going to have this huge load going into the playoffs last year or going into this year. If he's going to have to be looked on to be the guy that is somewhat carrying the team, how is he going to do? And they're somewhat near 500. They're not 44-7 or something ridiculous. Against playoff teams, they've lost. All of their losses have been against playoff teams, which shows how good of a team they are. And again, I'm not saying that they're not, but the one thing that with the 4 losses that they had against Toronto last year, he was all under 20 shots a game. So I'm trying to figure out a way that Giannis, I don't know if there's enough to back up what I said with Giannis, and that's what I'm trying to say. But at least I'll throw that out there. When he takes 20 or more shots against playoff teams, they're 6-4. Jake, what's your 1 through 3?
Yeah, it's tough. I think I would go with Boston, Toronto, Milwaukee. 1, 2, 3. Again, Milwaukee has the same concerns that I had last year. They could easily prove me wrong, like you said. Toronto's that tough team that's so deep and know who they are, so they're going to be tough out for anybody. And then Boston just has the wing play and the guard play that I think can win you a series regardless of who's playing center. We've seen the Rockets completely go away from center. And if Cantor played so well in the playoffs last year, why can't he do that again? And, yeah, that team has multiple people who can take over games and win you playoff games. So I'm pretty convinced that they're going to be up there, if not in the conference finals, at least in a Game 6 or Game 7 of the second round.
All right, that's where we think the Eastern Conference lays out post-trade deadline. I think Milwaukee should have been a little bit more aggressive at the deadline, but obviously
it's hard to force a
tough
trade when you're the best record in the NBA.
Yeah, too. I mean, where do you add really? And I think they could have made that bench a little more deeper. I think that also, they did a little bit with the Marvin Williams thing, but you're really just spelling Ersan at that point. I don't know if there is enough of a dynamic guard, and George Hill's played great, but I don't know if he's dynamic enough to really make a move, but or make a true impact. But he's a guy that's been in playoff series before, so we'll obviously see. Jake, thank you so much for joining us as always. We appreciate these Eastern Conference things. We'll do them each and every year now. We'll do that and drafts with you. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Good luck with Giannis Antetokounmpo high schoolers out there. If you want to be a patron like Jake, check out patreon.com/MostOutPodcast.